we are 3 countries, 2 in Europe, Belgium, Euskera, that's, I don't know how you say in English, Basque country, and Catalonia, and Switzerland. Switzerland, not in Europe. We are 2 mountain countries. We are 2 mountain countries, Euskera and Switzerland, with special characters. In German, we say nine sangers. That means we always say no before we say yes. And we really are fighters for independence. It's maybe character of mountains. For Donostia, the Euskera will be speaking a parity couple, woman and man. Genio for Belgium, it's a flat country, no mountains. And then Catalonia, who is very near my heart. Just to know, I was in jail for Catalanista Separatista in '59. And now, the other thing I wanted to tell you is a message of Pen, Swiss Italian, and Reto-Romansch. We have 4 languages, as you know, have been written. And they send you the best regards. And for Donostia Protocol, we, again, cannot be inside because our 4 languages are recognized by our government, and on my passport I have 5 languages, because finally the Swiss Swahili is English, even if I don't know it very well. Thank you. Then I give the parole to Euskera. Thank you. Thank you.
Merci, thank you, Alec. So briefly, the last year that was 2016, as some of you probably know, Europe chooses every year 2 cities to host the European Cultural Capitality. And on for 2016, it was decided that one of them would be Donostia, in Spanish, San Sebastian, Alonsau, Wrocław in Poland. So once it was decided that this city in the very heart of the Basque Country, on the coast, just very near where the Basque Country is divided between Spain and France, very near the border, and also sort of cultural capital for our language. Most of the issues are being done there, even if we both are from the western part, but anyway. And well, we have a mission to accomplish. We didn't know very well what it meant. Donostia always had a very vibrant cultural living. It has an international film festival, so many different activities, jazz festivals, music venues and events, literary events, and so on. And also very important theater halls and cinemas and so on. So it wasn't sort of a building or something like that we wanted to remain. But something perhaps not visually so important, but that may be deeper. And as you travel in Europe or in most countries, we have seen here in Asia, in India, and especially in southern India, we saw last year in Africa, we have seen in the Middle East, in so many indigenous communities in Latin America. So you realize that alongside the bigger languages, there are so many other languages, and there is a special connection when you speak with people in so many different, with Tibetan, with Tamils, and with so many, with Kurds, with Catalans, Basque, Mapuches, or Mayas in Mexico or in Chile, that you see these connections that we bring from childhood. What is that you cannot speak your language whenever you want to feel mixed with 2 languages. You feel one is deeply yours, the other you got it at some age, and so on. Well, anyway, we saw that this language thing had to be the thing that would remain. And Kontseilua, which is an umbrella of Basque Basque organization, we will see it later, started to plan ahead what it could be. Concello, as many of the members of Concello are also members of BEN. And so, more or less, we started to think about a protocol of linguistic rights. Of course, we didn't start from scratch. There was a basis that had been established when we started 15 years ago. It's already 20 years ago in Barcelona. And so we were thinking for a protocol of language rights that would apply to any citizen speaking no matter what language. So more or less, I think we can have a glimpse or a picture of what we did, and the result. It was presented last December in Donostia San Sebastian. I don't know if you can see this picture. There are tens of people here. Carlos is somewhere around there, and Simon as well, I think. You both are there. And it says in Basque, Bagara Nor. Yeah, it's true. It's difficult to translate exactly.
But here we are.
So
Here we are, but that is more than that.
we are something. We are something.
Yes, here we are, and we are able to. We are able to.
I mean, so it's sort of for all this invisible or invisibilized languages, it's to say, here we are, we exist, we're here. You want to take it harder, regardless of all your efforts to suppress the languages and to make it world and life a little bit more simple. And so, unfortunately, or luckily, life is much more complicated, and we need all these languages, all these speakers, and well, that was the protocol that was presented. We will try to briefly present the road to the protocol, but for us it is more important to show what the protocol means and the steps we have now ahead to do with the protocol. So, as I said, 20 years ago, the 21, we have the Universal Declaration of Linguistic Rights in Barcelona, and that knows, Carlos knows very well how it was done and what it meant. Then it brought the Girona Manifesto some 15 years later, and we had the declaration, and we thought that this had to lead to have a very specific measures and tools and compromises for all these accepted rights. And so we started to think which tools we should have to do all this. What we knew as it came from Barcelona is that we wanted the civil society to be the protagonist. The participants had to be, of course, the states and the governments had a role to accomplish, but we think it had to come from the civil society. Here you see all these organizations and NGOs. They work in many different fields, in the media, in education, in culture, and what else? Publishing houses, theater, language teaching, children's activities. Well, a lot of different fields. They all work with the Basque language and in the Basque language. And so now we can see the four functions of the civil society here. We have the speakers, the spaces where they are, the tools, and the complaining. And once we established what we had at home, we tried to make all these connections in the continent. So, the same we show for the Basque country, we can show in Europe. So many different organizations in Britain language, Irish, Catalans, Galician, Asturian, Welsh, Frisian, and so on. So, for a few years, they were contacted one by one, different language communities, organizations, NGOs, and civil society. And so, it is this way that was established the start of the protocol. How we started is Conchellua, and in 2016, started to promote it. I think it was in the Congress in Kyrgyzstan, where we contacted Ben to join this Congress that would be held and the protocol that it would lead to. And so they would organize. Then a scientific committee had to be established, and the organized civil society would make all these proposals for the Congress and for the protocol for linguistic rights. So, so this is how the process starts. We set up the organizing team to specify references and define the overall structure of the protocol. Here, Paul is also a member of the BASPEN, and Simona and Karma, they also were there to establish the aims, the values, and the references for the Congress and the protocol. And now you can see more or less how this scientific committee started to gather all the information in so many different fields: communication, education, culture, and so on and so on. So once we established it, as I said, we started to receive and gather all the inputs of different communities in Europe, from the Samis, from the Frisians, from the Catalans, from Welsh, Galicians, and so on. And I don't have the figure here, but I think there are hundreds of different measures that were proposed for this Congress. And so after all those measures were received, many of them, of course, have to be left outside because of, well, either they were not related or perhaps there were similar ones. So there was a first draft of 260 measures and a final one, the last version of 185 measures. That I think it took all the process a couple of 2 or 3 years to meet and to make all this process. Both Simona and Carmen know very well. They took part in this committee. So, and here we have some. Well, you can read behind me, so that I don't turn some of the measures that should be taken, and so that the linguistic rights of everyone would be respected, and all the articles that were defined one by one and field by field. And the measures that were taken or should be taken so that the rights are accepted and more or less. So you can see. I forgot to say. All these measures you can check them in PDF. I mean, there is. And if someone wants it physically too, we don't have it here, but I guess it can be sent too. Anyway, it's easy to download.
So, as Urti said, the idea was, he said very well, yes? Working? Yes. He said very well. The idea was, we had in our hands very important rules or laws, but as you know, sometimes the material we have, you get to write the rules and laws, but in practice we don't have the real tool to bring to the people, to give to the people the possibility to use it. So this protocol, the main idea of this protocol was to set up the tools, the drills, the things to use, to be useful, in order to put in practice the rights. So we start field by field, from education to media, administration. If in the Universal Declaration of Linguistic Rights we have this right, which is the way in order to put it in practice? How can we use really this right in the everyday life? So this document has two parts. One part is general, is for any country, any language. So it's the kind of tools we can use in order to put in practice the rights. But the other part is especially for any language. It's the book note. So the document we have, and now is the exposition, but we have another document, and we can to send you by email if you want. This document is in 5 languages. It's in Basque, of course, English, French, Spanish, and Catalan. In this document, you will find this general document for any language. I mean, it's a way to give ideas for any language to use later the general document, and the other one is a notebook, and any language has to write, if we are here, which will be the step in order to arrive to reach to the top. Yes.
Here we have an example, for instance, the percentage of internal and external communication in minoritized language. So, of course, we cannot share what happens in Frisian or in Tamil. We know our reality, but everyone can and should make this effort with their own languages. And for instance, we have sort of having the right that the doctor can attend me in my own language or not. That can be this education accepted and promoted in my language. I mean, in all the different fields, you can see what's the reality at the moment and what should be the ideal goal so that linguistic rights are respected. And yes, as you can see.
Can that be made larger?
Sure. I don't know. Can be done larger. Yeah, well, just let me.
Possible. Yeah.
Well, here it says the percentage of internal and external communication in minority language, for instance. That can be an indicator. Then you establish different administration, local ones, the autonomous, regional, whatever it takes, and the government of the state. So here is the level of fulfillment. With the local ones, it's 55%. With the autonomous or regional, completed to a small degree, 10%. Not completed at all with the statewide or nationwide, 2%. Verification element, website, publication, documentation. So, and then you can go and check it if all the papers, all the officials, their websites are respect the linguistic diversity of your country. Then you see the first period that what should be done or what has been done, and the second period. This is an example of how this could be done.
So the first idea was to give to the tool, and the other one, and for us is really very important, is the way to do that. I mean, for our experience, we know that the language has not state, has no government. The language without political system, own political system, we have to do everything by ourselves. We can be waiting for the initiative of the government because we have not government. Mm-hmm. So in this case, for us, it's really important, and we think it could be similar for other languages. It's very important to active the social civil society. Why? because it's the only possibility we have. So anyway, we don't think that it's possible only doing this kind of things only with civil society, because we need also some kind of support, official support from autonomies, from governments, from authorities. So the way we see to do that is to active the people, to active the society, and to push to the governments in order to put in this kind of situation that they have to move. We think the movement in two directions, from down to up and from up to down. If you do that only from up to down, it's not possible to. If people don't agree with that, it's not possible. So you have to do in this double movement, and we really believe in that. We have to do that for some things. Our language is a small language. We are in total less than 3 million people, and we are talking in Basque only 800,000 people, less than 1 million people. But our language is living for the last 50,000 years. So it's pre-Indo-European, it's before that all the languages are alive now and around Europe, and we are talking in Basque, in our language, we are talking for the last 15,000 years. So, how is possible to do that? It's possible to do that because we remain our languages in our schools, and we, for us, we are people because we are talking the language we are speaking. We are speaking our language, and we are Basque because we speak Basque. Otherwise, we will, I don't know, no Basque. The Basque is not only our language, it's also the name of our country, the name of our
Your identity.
identity. So, in our experience, very long experience for thousands of years, in our experience, you can get the support from the app, but if you don't believe it in yourself, you don't get anything. So that is why we are saying that the movement must be double, from the up to down and down to up. And
At one point, I think it's,
yes.
well, being in Penn, it's pretty obvious that the importance of lobbying and having a grassroots movement. I mean, I think all our centers know very well how important it is to have this support of the community. And in our case, we did it perhaps because we don't have around country, our state, we never had, or we didn't have it for if we ever did. So we always know that the things we don't do, no one do it for us. And then therefore, I mean, we can't be waiting for some government or whatever decides to take action. No, it was always us. That is how we started our own schools in the dictatorship, when all these things were illegal and these kind of clandestine schools were established, and all the language movement was started as that, and it grew up, and people agreed. And I think it is very much connected to what PAN is doing in so many countries. And so somehow this is the role of the civil society. I mean, it's not to be a part of the state, but sometimes when the state is doing something else, or they focus more on making cars and getting profits, I mean, of course we still have to work on it. And they say, well, the cars have to be done also in Basque.
And this model to work, we would like to spread, to bring also to other communities to Europe and around the world. I mean, in the picture we saw before, we saw that in the first one, it were a lot of small associations from our country, but in the second one were a lot of associations around Europe. So that is the same way we would like to offer in order to work together with the people already is committed, already is no, the other one is with the people already compromised doing things. So people is working in small associations yet. So the way is to connect all of them to do the same thing and to agree. That is why this last document we present last December in San Sebastian in Donostia is the result of the apportations of a lot of people, and all those associations were working together. Because we don't think that it's possible to do something only thinking 4 people in one small office. If you want really to involve others, you have to give the word, the voice to others. It's not possible to say what you have to do if you are not before working for that. So that is the idea. That means that you have to work harder, you have to work more time, you have to work sometimes one step ahead and 2 steps back, because you have to be sure that people is going with you at the same time.
Alex is telling me to use the word direct democracy.
Yeah.
So
I think that is the most important thing, is direct democracy. That means, as she said, it has always to come from the base up. And at that moment, then the government discovered it's a power du peuple, let's say, of the people. And if the language is your identity, absolutely, then they kill you. You don't are part anymore of the country of where you are, if your identity is not respected. So it has to come directly from the base. It cannot be from up and say, now you are going to speak this language. No, if you don't feel it, it's your language. Forget it.
So, as we said, moving forward, after all this work in December, there was this meeting in front of 700 people in Donostia, San Sebastian, with some of our friends here. And the protocol was presented in the Cursal venue in Donostia. So, it brings a few innovations. There's a new terminology on the one side. We don't want to speak anymore of minorities, of regions. We speak about rights, about coexistence, about suitable management of diversity, equality, social justice, and so on. When you cannot, when you need a translator to speak to your doctor about very intimate things, your rights are not being respected. And that's an example. That's, for instance, the first point with the new terminology. On the second hand, it's the subject, who is the protagonist, who has the main role in all this, and as we say, it's the civil society, the social organizations that have to be in the core of it. And then there's a specific proposal, there's a roadmap agreed by all these social organizations. It was mainly Europe, but we really think that it can be, I mean, because of the European cultural capital, but we don't think it can be useful for any linguistic community around the world. So once this has been established, all these issues, now we have a few challenges ahead, and the document is there, and the challenges, as we said, we started and we did all in Europe, but we want both in Europe and outside that are more supporter organizations, more NGOs, more groups joining this protocol. Yeah, so now the task is that any language has to work inside their own communities and find who is working in all these different fields. Then we should prepare the type of language by language. But of course, everything cannot be done by just simple lobbying or NGOs working. And so the government should start to involve in this and to recognize and start to work with this protocol. And and we want to be a reference for international institutions. We already started. I think Paul, our band member, and there were Paul Bilbao, who started working with it. He already met with different officials in both Catalonia and Galicia, I think also in Brussels. Maybe you know more about it.
Yes, yeah, well, yes, he has been working also, as I said before, it's important to start from the base, but also to go to the avant and explain them which is the idea and why they have to help with this idea. So yes, Paul Bilbao is the director of Conceilua, that is the umbrella of a lot of associations in favor of the Basque language. He went sometimes, many times, well, not only about all Europe, working with all the associations we have seen before, but also to Brussels and to UNESCO and other places in order to explain them which is the project and in order to get the support of them, because as we said before, the movement must be double.
So, well, I guess some of them, or you may know him because he has attended a few congresses and meetings of this committee. And last but not least, we really think this should be the ideological basis for new discourse related to the language. And we think that we really have to walk towards that part where we speak about the issues we said before. It's not anymore an issue of minorities or a few regions in the periphery of the countries, but we're talking about social justice, about primary rights that should and have to be respected.
Yes, when we talk about languages, the issue is not quantity. In our case, it's logic. If we're talking about quantity, a language with less than 1 million speakers is nothing. We have to talk always about quality, about identity, about the connection with the link. The language is linked with the mind and with the thought and with the culture. So for us, it's natural. This way of thinking is natural because it's supervised. We can compare the languages with numbers. In our case, numbers we are losing always. So that is why we want to change the mind and to change the words also. Not talk about minorities, not talk about regions, not talk about spaces. We have to talk about rights, coexistence. We have to talk about respect and about to learn living together. That is the idea. No one language is unuseful. Every language is important. No mind the quantity of the people is speaking the language. But that's all for us. So later when we finish, maybe you want to do some questions, we will be glad to answer.
Thank you, Euskera. One of the first objectives of the Donostia Protocol is explore new ways to coexist and relate. I will ask Belgium